Bodies, forged on mountaintops, nurtured by fairies, and hardened by dragons. I remember the stories that Dad would tell me at night. He would weave tales of deities harnessing the elements in battle. I remember one god in particular being able to freeze an entire tidal wave. Every night, I lay there in awe at his ability to transport me to a world beyond worlds, each one different from the last. I remember anticipating new stories while relishing the repeats, and grew up to revere a people to which I was intimately tied by blood, struggle, and loss. Bodies, with tan, sun-dried skin, wandering the streets of Little Saigon. She used to be a famous singer, Dad told me when I noticed her on our drive back home. She sleeps on the side of the takeout place that I was raised on. I think about her often. I think about her and others like her, especially in a time like this, a time in which their vulnerability is heightened and they become so hyper-visible, yet so unseen. I wonder if she remembers how beautiful she was, is. I wonder if her family thinks of her as much as I do. In times like this, I wonder if it is easier to forget than it is to remember. Bodies, ravaged by disease and brutalized by the hands of men. My mind is flooded with news of attacks against us, for a virus that we did not create, for a virus that others prolong. I weep for my brothers and sisters. I weep for our children, for our elders. I weep for new souls who cannot make sense of this violence, and I weep for old souls for whom it only makes sense. I weep, and I yearn for the future. Bodies, lost in racial purgatory, only to become pawns in this game with no end. Yi, Gao, are you ashamed? What do you feel when you see red and yellow proudly strung up next to a flag that has nothing to be proud of? What do you feel when you see our black and brown brothers and sisters murdered by people who will never see you as one of them? You can hide all you want behind your money, but there will always be things that you cannot afford, things that cost a life, yours or otherwise. Bodies, 6 feet under, velvet and wood separating them from the same dirt that forms us. For such magical beings, our bodies are so fragile. As difficult as it was to swallow, I came to realize death is truly the greatest of equalizers. Growing up, I was terrified. I was terrified of losing those I loved. I was terrified of dying myself. Now, the only thing that I have to be scared of is not being on the right side of history.